Okay, so we'll begin now. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back again this Sunday. And today we have our speaker, Mr. S. Gopalan. Uh, Mr. Gopalan has spoken before this group a number of times, so he hardly needs an introduction. So I'll cut that out and Mr. Gopalan sir can start his talk. And he's going to talk on why don't you begin from the other end, the end we don't know about, possible, practical, or impossible, impractical. As many of us know, Krishna always talked about starting from the other end. And I remember in one question answer session, he also said that, sir, there is nothing like the other end. So I don't know where Gopalan sir is going to lead us. So, sir, with these words, thank you once again for accepting our invitation. And we are really thankful that you have we have come back again and talk for this talk. And I extend a very warm welcome to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dubey. Namaste to everybody. This sentence, why don't you begin from the other end, the end you don't know about, is from the only revolution written sometime in 1968, 1969. And when we listen to it, our thought starts operating. And thought operates with through images. So the image that this sentence usually initiates in us is here is a lake or a sea or a river. We are on this shore and there's the other shore on the other side. Now, how do we reach that? That is the image we come through. And when we listen to Krishnamurti asking, why don't you begin from the other shore, the shore that you cannot possibly see from here, it's a bit of a confusion. I mean, how is one to do it? Is the first question that normally arises in our minds. So, our thought works only through such divisive imagery. The imagery of separation, the imagery of this show and that show, the imagery of I and the world. It is only through separation that we are trained to look and interact in this world. Now, the modern scientific view of the human being is classified into four separate spheres. There is biological, there is psychological, there is social, and there is the spiritual. All these are treated as separate, as if they have no interconnection between them. And if you look at the way we study human physiology today, we study it as a 11 separate systems, circulatory system, the respiratory system, again, as if they have not been connected to one another, as if they are separate systems. So more and more through our education, we get conditioned to separate in this form. So in this view of modern science, a biological being is a human being who's a member of a species called Homo sapiens, a group of ground-dwelling tailless primates. Psychologically, humans are considered to have a brain capable of abstract reasoning, language, and introspection. Socially, humans are considered to be inherently social animals like most primates, but are particularly adept at utilizing systems of communication for self-expression, exchange of ideas, and organizing. And spiritually, humans have historically formed religious associations which are characterized by belief in God, gods, or spirits, and by various traditions and rituals. So, in all these four, we notice something common. All these realms are within the realm of thought, intellect, and even the spiritual is rooted in belief. And this question is not asked, is there any aspect of the human being that is not part of thought intellect? Now, this question is not part of our modern thinking, education, any such intellectual aspect of life. Now, we are great proponents of the scientific process. So it's worth repeating, what is the scientific process? Because we think everything has to be done scientifically. Now, the scientific process developed sometime since the 17th century with people like Priestley and the others talking about it a lot. And it essentially involves 6 steps. First is asking a question about something that you observe, then doing background research to know what is already known about this question, then to construct a hypothesis, experiment and test the hypothesis, analyze the data that comes from this experiment, and then arrive at a conclusion. So the entire goal is driven by this wanting to arrive at a conclusion. But if you look at true scientific inquiry, it cannot stop with arriving at a conclusion. The conclusion must lead to further question. And therefore, there should perpetually be an inquiry because every conclusion we know is limited. It doesn't explain the entire question that has been asked. It only attempts to hypothesize one aspect of it. And therefore, the question should be kept alive. That is the true scientific inquiry. So, perpetual inquiry without being stuck in conclusions is the essence of the true scientific inquiry. Now, is this inquiry in the realm of thought intellect? Inherently, thought intellect has certain limitations. It can only operate by recognizing information from the past and making its projection as idea, imagination, thesis, conclusion projected into what it calls the future. So does this even allow the possibility of any other view coming in which doesn't fit this definition? Now, in actual fact, if we see, this image of separation is not the only one that exists in our known world. The modern technology has brought to us many other images. For example, there's the simile and the image of a rocket being launched into space. What is actually launched into space is only one small little satellite, which is the payload of that rocket, and it sits in the nose of that rocket. Otherwise, the rest of the rocket is really 3 or 4 stages. Every stage has a clear function to lift that entire rocket to a certain altitude. Once it has reached that stage drops out from the rocket because the entire system cannot carry the whole thing into space. So there is a very interesting lesson that this is telling us. Use something when you need it, then discard. But in our lifestyle, we don't like to discard anything. And the reason for that is not very difficult to find. Our identity is built on our memories. The more memory we have, the more foundation our identity has. And therefore, we would not like to discard anything if it's possible. So we don't learn from this other example that comes to us in modern technology. And there are numerous such examples. Now, there is an alternative perspective to human thought, which comes from Indian thought. It's very interesting to know that in Ojai 1985, talk 4, which was Krishnamurti's last talk in Ojai, he made an interesting observation. I'll just read it to you. Quote, in Hinduism, you can believe or not believe, you are still a Hindu. You understand? You never need go to a temple, be utterly skeptical, doubt everything, and yet be a Hindu. Now, that's an extraordinary statement coming from Krishnamurti, because we always think that each one of these isms is a self-limiting circle. So if you really look at this, that you don't need to believe, you can question everything, what you're then attributing to Hinduism is something totally different. But that's not the topic of this discussion. So I won't go into that. So in this Hindu perspective, the human being is considered to be made up of 5 sheets or layers. They are concentric layers, one inside the other, not separate. And this was articulated, we don't know how many thousands of years ago. So the outermost layer is the physical layer. Next comes the vital layer. After that, inside comes the mental layer. Below that comes the layer of the intellect. And even below that is the core, what they call the bliss layer. But it's interesting to observe that none of these layers is conscious of it on its own. It doesn't have life of its own. There is only one life, and that is that energy of life. And it is that energy which comes through all these layers, right up to the outermost layer. Now, this has enormous consequences in understanding our day-to-day living. It implies that every single sense of ours, that sensation that we get, is that comes in from the gross physical body, but it has to go right down to the source of energy, because that's the only conscious thing which can act on it. And then it has to come back for expression through all these layers. And in this process of going in and out, it must inevitably be colored by all the conditioning of these separate layers. So what we see outside is a manifestation of a cumulative conditioning of all the preceding layers. There is no place for separation in this view. No. If we are really truly scientific, should we not want to inquire into the possibility of this view that has been expressed? Or do we discard it as traditional, age old, not modern? That's not being science. So, what is the essential significant feature of this approach? Is it not that perception gives rise to recognition of the body and the physical world? Understanding gives rise to conclusions and hypotheses. Sensitivity expresses itself through social interaction. Perception, understanding, sensitivity. Together they form the spiritual dimension, do they not? And none of them are separate from one another. So, without perception, without understanding, without sensitivity, there can be no recognition of the world outside. There can be no activity of thought, intellect. There can be no social interaction. Now, are not sensitivity, understanding, perception the very qualities of life energy itself? They are certainly not of thought, intellect. Now, is there a single moment while we are alive that this life energy is absent from us? It is not. Therefore, are we not always standing on this other shore, the shore of the life energy, which actually is sustaining this entire edifice of the human being? Do we need to make any effort to get to the other shore, or we are on that shore every minute that we are alive? So you see, just changing the imagery of approach makes an enormous difference in perspective. Now, the entry gates to perception, understanding, sensitivity are listening, looking, all the senses. When we are listening, looking, the brain is active, but is thought, intellect active? And the moment thought, intellect becomes active, is looking, listening, continuing to happen? So again, this seems to point out that we are always on the other shore when we are looking, listening, and it is thought in intellect which comes in the way of being on the other shore. Now, if you look at our modern lifestyle, it is completely out of sync with anything sensible or intelligent. Human beings live in the environment of nature, the sun and the moon, day and night. But more and more we see that we have no distinction between day and night. Our inventions, beginning with electricity and now going on to internet and a global outlook and village, have made us ignore all these separations of day and night. So we don't even know when the day is or when the night is when we are sitting inside our rooms looking at the computer. We have to go out to see that. So we don't do anything which is appropriate to a time. We don't eat at the appropriate time. We don't rise at the appropriate time. Our lifestyle is anything but healthy. But all the knowledge that we have from medical and scientific world is that you need a lifestyle that is appropriate. Otherwise, you are inviting your own problems. So the knowledge is there that your stress levels, everything when rises when you are not in sync. But that knowledge seems to have no effect on our actual lifestyle as we live it. Is this not because of the separation? Now, then the question comes, is the separation between the physical and the psychological the basic cause of all disorder? Is there validity in this separation? Now, does the physical exist independent of the psychological? We seem to think and act as if it does. But if you go down even into very basic physics, energy manifests as matter. How does energy manifest as matter? When it manifests itself in a particular structure of a cell, it comes as matter in a specific form. That structure is memory. That's why every time you replicate the structure, you get an identical piece of matter. Now, isn't memory psychological? So can this physical world that we know exist without memory, which is psychological? Similarly, can the psychological exist without the physical? Not possible. So the separation is only made by our thought intellect for argument purposes. In actual fact, is there a separation at all? The modern science again assumes that matter gave rise to the psychological. Ancient wisdom indicates psychological gave rise to matter. So, is that something that is to be investigated? Did the body give rise to the sense of I, or the sense of I is the cause of the manifestation of the entire universe? Because the universe that I know is the universe that I recognize through my mind. Can I know any other universe? And therefore, all effort only encourages this separation. Now, Separation has its uses in limited ways, particularly in organizing and reducing disorder. If you had a chest of drawers and you organized your clothes according to the shelves, that reduces disorder. You can find the shirt that you want very easily. But that's about its limited use. Beyond that limited use, does effort become a hindrance? So, Krishnamurti at one point pointed out, we think by comparing ourselves with somebody, we are progressing. Right? Now, this idea of progress is deeply ingrained in the human psyche. Progress is becoming. Hope and the idea of future are the supporting blocks of this becoming and progress. Now, at bottom, aren't they all simply attempts to somehow or the other perpetuate the I? So, at bottom is not the perpetuation of the I, the primary motive for all this. Then, what is self-knowing? Is that a question that is equally important in this process? Again, another thing that human beings very deeply accept unquestioned is authority. We may say that we don't accept authority, but there is a deep-rooted acceptance of authority. So when we do not really question something that is said to us and understand it for ourselves. So just to give you an example on the subject of time, about which we have so many discussions, in one particular talk in 1984, Krishnamurti said, quote, of course you need time to learn a language, to learn a skill, to become an expert in programming a computer. There you need gradual process of accumulation of knowledge. There, time, gradation, gradualness is necessary. But psychologically, inwardly, we carry the same principle. So, in most of our discussions, what I have seen is that we follow exactly what has been said here and say time is necessary in the outer world. Nobody is disputing that. Let's only discuss psychological time. Is there such a thing as beginning? This is how our discussions normally go. But I would ask, in all time, whether it's time by the sunrise, whether it's time to reach another city, whether it's time for a seed to become a tree, or whether it's this process of becoming, isn't there one common thread? And that thread is that there is the separation between the thinker and the thought. Without this separation of thinker and the thought, can time exist? So only in separation of thinker of the thought does time itself arise. So the desire to become, which is measurement, which is comparison, is that one of the causes of conflict? Obviously it is. Now, Krishnamurti pointed out something very important in this sense. He said, a man that has lived without conflict is an extraordinary human being. There is tremendous energy which is dissipated in conflict. So it is important, if one may point out, the necessity of understanding conflict. Now, when Krishnamurti points out something like this, the authoritativeness of that statement doesn't permeate. Because we tend to say, well, conflict is inevitable. Now let's move on, how we manage it. We only go into that. When is this understanding of conflict to be done? In his last talk in Madras on 3rd of January 1986, that is what Krishnamurti ended the talk with. He said, quote, if you have made a mess of your life, change it. Change it today, not tomorrow. If you are uncertain, find out why and be certain. If your thinking is not straight, think straight, logically. Unless all that is prepared, all that is settled, you can't enter into this world, the world of creation. So, that to me is the question. Here is he's saying that you can't enter this world of creation. I'm paraphrasing to ask, aren't we always in that world of creation? Because that is life. Through our activity of thought, intellect, which is strengthened by our education and our lifestyle, are we like the proverbial story, the 10 men in the Upanishadic story? There were these 10 men, 10 students. And as they crossed the river, they counted, and each one counted 9 and said, one of us is lost. Somebody outside had to take a stick and whack each one on the head and say, count 1, 2, 3, 4, and reach 10. You were ignoring yourself in the count. Doesn't that story hold true today in the way we live? So, is there really another shore that we have to reach, or we are already on that shore so long as we are alive? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gopalan. I think you have weaved the whole theme beautifully. I have no words to say more, but it has raised lots of questions, and I'm sure people will raise these points. Uh, I remember a discussion in Radghat where this issue of starting from the other shore was discussed, and Professor Krishnath was there. And explaining this, Krishna said, Sir, when the brain understands that it doesn't know, not theoretically, but actually when it sees that it doesn't know, then there is lots of humility, and it's in a state where it listens. That is the ground from which we start from the other shore. So theoretically, sir, what you said that we are already on that shore all the time is true. But so long we are using thought to sort out our issue or to reach somewhere, then of course we'll never reach the other shore. Similarly, I think you have covered beautifully things of authority, separation of thinker and thought. Harshad Bhai in last talk or perhaps last before that talked about chronological time and psychological time very well, and he explained it very well. I don't need to say that. I'm sure there will be questions, so I'll straight away go to Mr. Harshad Parekh. Yes, sir. Harshad Bhai, please unmute yourself. And I must
Yes.
thank Gopalan sir for covering it very well. It was very beautifully said. Thank you.
Yes. Are you able to hear my voice?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Gopalan sir. If we want to understand anything of psychological nature, then it is very important that there be freedom at the beginning. And if we are confused, then whatever we listen or read, it will create more confusion. So it seems to me that freedom is necessary to understand anything very, very clearly. And that freedom means a clarity, no thinking, a pure attention. And in that attention, whatever is unfolding in our mind or whatever we are listening, we can get it without any distortion. And that is why Krishnaji was talking about the art of looking, listening, learning. How do we do anything? And that's why he said freedom is at the beginning. And without that, whatever we do, it will create more confusion. And recently, I am reading Astavakra. He was a great philosopher like Krishnamurti, and he was also speaking about freedom at the beginning. And he said, completely give up even meditation and hold nothing in your mind. You are verily the true self, the Atman, the free. What will you do by thinking? He says. And there is also a story about a lion cub, and it was lost and it was brought up along with goats, cubs. And this lion cub also began to think that it was like a goat, and it began to imitate other goats. Then one day, one lion came and showed this lion his face in the water. And then this lion came to know that it was not goat, it was acting like a goat, but really it was a lion. So when such thing happens in our life, when we really get this clarity that we are pure, we are free, only our thinking and whatever we have learned through education, that has created a false conditioning. And when we able to be really quiet and begin to look and listen without this sense of I or me interfering, then that is the other shore. And so this can come, I feel, when a person is very, very curious to go deep within oneself to look at the beginning of a thought or a feeling. And so, but that itself requires the freedom, energy, curiosity, attention. Everything is required to look how everything is unfolding. So I would say that yes, we need to start from the freedom to see if there is any problem coming in our life. We can see at its root. And when it is seen, then that problem, whether it is a fear or anger or jealousy, it gets dissolved in the light of this looking without with freedom. Okay, I have said enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harshad Bhai. Mr. Shankar Rao, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, Gopalanji. In fact, it's very difficult to frame any question when it comes to the other side. I'll try. My question actually, first I'll put the question, then I'll put my understanding, then you can answer to my question. My question is, while being on the other side, how to live on this side? This is the question actually. Before you answer, I want to give a little understanding of mine, what I meant by the other side, because maybe I understood totally wrong. The other side, what I understand is, the moment you understand that you are perceiving all the time through name and form, you are perceiving all the time through concepts of thought. Krishnamurti says, without distortion, he used that word. Here, concept of thought means everything comes into it, A to Z. Even recognizing a matter as a living thing, recognizing a matter as a human, recognizing a matter as anything, even Gopalan. If I see you as a Gopalan, I'm not seeing as it is. Okay, for the materialistic world, it's a different thing. When you are on the other side, you should not be able to see Gopalan as a Gopalan. It's only a matter. Some image is moving there. That's all. All the concepts of thought, the relationship, nationality, everything, even the teaching, also part of that concept. So once you understand all this is created by thought, then you could be able to see, perceive everything as it is. But to live in this, till you are in this body, I have to live in this side, though I understand the other end. So how to live it on this side while knowing what is the other side? I hope I put my question correctly. My apologies if it is something wrong. Thank you.
I got your question. You see, that to me is our habit and conditioning. See, Harshad Bhai talked about freedom being at the beginning. So immediately our thing is, right, first I have to become free, then I have to start. That sequential approach doesn't work, right? There is freedom in every moment to watch how my thought is coming in. That freedom is not denied. Isn't that the freedom? And where does that freedom come from? That freedom comes from our life energy. So long as we are alive, we have that freedom. It's up to us whether we exercise that freedom to say, okay, I'm doing this because I have this fear, or I have this desire, or I have this motive. That doesn't mean that all the motives have to end, all the fears have to end. That's again an imagination, that there is a state where there is no motive, nothing happening. If there is none of that, why would this world that we know exist? So it goes back to that other question that I try to bring in. You see, we are conditioned through our education to believe that it is the body which has created the mind. We need to ask, is it the mind which has created the body? And there are different ways in which this has been explained. That whether in the East you believe in reincarnation, or whether Krishnamurti says when the river flows on and the body dies, that stream of consciousness has to keep manifesting. I don't see a difference. So there you are already saying that at death, it is the body which dies. That outer layer dies. The psychological layer hasn't gone anywhere. It's there. And so long as it is there, it has to manifest. So one of the questions that Krishnamurti pointed out to was, is it possible for you to step out of that stream? Now, again, you see, each of these questions gives us an image, a very physical image of stepping out of the water. But it's not a physical act. We're talking about that stepping out, being able to see what is motivating me to do something in this way. Can one begin with that? And that freedom exists all the time.
Thank you, Gopalan sir. We'll go to Prasad sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Prasad Mulupuri.
Namaste, sir. Sir, from my limited understanding of science and all that, I couldn't follow some of the examples given by Gopalan sir. But always one question has troubled me. Krishnaji has said, you are the world and the world is you. And for illustrating that, he used to say, you have the same misery as the other man. You have the same desires as the other man, same fears, same sorrows, etc., etc. I always used to wonder why he stopped with that. In the Indian tradition, we covered everything, the entire animate world, and possibly even the inanimate world. We said that everything is a manifestation of the Brahman. If so, why confine that unity only to the humans? And there is no rational basis for that limitation. Either we go by that we are all separate, or we unify the entire creation. If we understand that the entire thing is manifestation of Brahman, then possibly we are starting from the other shore. But even with that realization, we still have our human problems. We have our greed, we have our sorrow, we have our attachment, we have our suffering. These things we are not escaping. That concept of unity is remaining only a concept. So we have to start from where we are. That is only a concept. When we start from where we are, we know most of our problems are created by our own thoughts. We know that our thoughts are the products of our own conditioning. We know our thoughts create all our divisions. We have our wars of all types. So, how to reconcile these two? That is, at one, there is that story of Shankar also. He said the world is illusion. And then one day, an elephant chased him and he ran away. And his disciples asked him, "What's that you are running away?" He said, "The elephant is an illusion. And my running also is an illusion." So, sir, ultimately we have to live in this world. How do we live in this world without conflict, without misery? That is the basic question. And for that, I think, sir, we have to start from our shore only, because we don't know what the other shore is actually. Thank you, sir.
Sir, that is what I was trying to point out all along, that this sentence of this shore and other shore creates in us an image of two separate shores, and therefore we have to start here or we have to start there. See, we live in a world of knowledge, and I would like to bring in three terms here: data, information, knowledge. And what is the connect between them? To give an example, in geography, we study what is latitude. So that is data, facts. Then we say latitude of Bangalore is 13 degrees north. So one fact is associated with another fact. That becomes information. Up to here, there is no problem. But for this movement from information to knowledge, there has to be a conclusion or a hypothesis made. For example, to say all places on the same latitude will have similar climatic conditions is a hypothesis. We haven't verified it. We are only hypothesizing. Now here, this process of creating knowledge is in the moment. But we may record that conclusion as another set of information. Now, this process cannot be communicated because it's a living process that is only in this moment. The conclusion, which is the information, can be communicated, but information is no good. It doesn't bring understanding. So when we say that the seer said this or Vedanta said that, we are not talking of the knowledge that they discovered. We are talking of the conclusion which is available to us as information. We haven't assimilated it ourselves and made that movement from information to knowledge. That movement from information to knowledge is only in the present moment, and once one has expressed it, one is out of it. So it's a continuous living process. This is living from the other shore, in my understanding. And that comes from the energy which powers us, which is the life energy. So long as we are alive, that is there. So in different ways, they have said, talking of living in the moment, etc., etc., etc. But you see, we always say all that is theory. Pragmatic thing is, how do I live in this world? This world is a creation of my mind. So I'm really asking, how do I live in a creation of my own mind? is this world, does the world exist apart from my mind? That's a question that I will have to hold. I may not get the answer to that immediately, but can I live with that question? Can I hold that question? I just stay with that question and keep observing and let life flow.
Thank you. Thank you, Gopalan sir. Before I go to Mr. Pradeep Prakash, I have a question from Shakti ji from Rajghat. His question is to Gopalan ji. He says, rationally, it is clear that thinker is none other than thought. The observer is not a separate entity from anger or sadness within. But while watching within to test it out, this non-separation is not so clearly experiential. It still remains an enigma. What do you have to say to this, sir?
We are deeply conditioned, are we not, to believe that our understanding comes from our intellect. So we have listened to somebody make this statement, this sure and that sure, thinker and thought, and we say we have understood. We have understood the meaning of those words and the logic of what is being explained. That is what we have understood. We haven't really digested it and got it for ourselves. That comes when we face fear. At that moment, all this knowledge goes away. Right? That comes when we face conflict. Therefore, that is the route to understanding. Life provides us all these opportunities, whether we want it or we don't. So there's a saying, pain and pleasure are both teachers, but pain is the better teacher because there's no escaping from pain. So the moment we understand there is no escape, that's the beginning of watching and trying to understand. And then you have to go through and understand. And once there is understanding, then you don't seek any explanations. But this is a problem, particularly we intellectuals have, because we think that by reading the entire literature that is available to us, we have got the wisdom of the ages. We have got the information about the wisdom. We have to convert it into knowledge for ourselves.
Thank you.
Can
Thank
I
you.
join?
Yes, Pradeep ji, please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Ji. Gopalan, it is always a pleasure listening to you. I really enjoy. Okay, let me, share something very interesting happening here. When we talk of this shore and that shore, or whenever we talk, give any talk is happening, there is, some ideal created. And right now we are in some situation. So that triggers a becoming journey. अरे यार मेरे पास तो है नहीं ये शोर में मुझे उस शोर में जाना है तो we get trapped in the becoming journey. I'm asking in the here and now to all the people, they have to answer themselves. Are you getting trapped in this becoming journey right now when they're talking of the other show? If you're getting trapped and then there is some ego which is trying to become egoless, so this becomes the barrier of the other show. The moment there's a clarity of perception and seeing that this trap is getting set for the ego and this Pradeep ego is getting trapped in that, that perception drops it and you reach the other show. Okay, that's one. Second challenge that I am giving to this group, which repeatedly I experience, the moment you take things away from the here and now happening, like for example, I gave you the example of here and now, what is happening to people, they are moving in the becoming journey. I'm assuming because we are not talking, I'm not able to listen to people, but I am assuming we are triggered to that. So I have brought it, the group in the here and now experiential part of them. Are they experiencing this? The moment any talk, anything, question, anything which happens, which moves away from this kind of here and now experiential to the head level, it only adds to the confusion and it is of very less usefulness. I give you, say you, when you listen to Krishnamurti, just listen to this point. Is he bringing you in the here and now experiential, or he's also taking you in the head journey? So the moment there is a head journey, its usefulness reduces. Thank you.
I think Pradeep ji has made two beautiful points, basically observations. So we can go to the question of Mr. Dinesh Waghmare. Yes, Dinesh ji, go ahead.
Are you able to listen to me, sir? Gopalan,
Yes.
sir? Sir, my views are actually, we are thinking in terms of either or. Mind has a problem to think either or this. It cannot comprehend the totality. There is separation also and there is no separation also. As you rightly said, there was life energy and which is permeating through all your lower levels. So every level has got its own reality, as well as it has got its own properties. It has got own rules and regulations. And at the same time, when we go deep to the life force energy, there is no separation. But at the lower level, separation is also there. So both the realities are simultaneously existing, whereas our mind is not able to comprehend this. And it is actually locked in one reality, and because of conditioning or because of so many other factors which we have discussed many times. So if this other shore, why the other shore issue comes? Because there is a reference of this shore. Why can't we see that this is a total one band, like 7 colors of a same this rainbow? And each color is different also, and at the same time it has got the basic reality which is non-separation. So all the things are existing simultaneously. What do you have to say on this?
You pointed out right in the beginning that the mind thought cannot comprehend the totality. That is its limitation, right? But immediately after saying that, we want to try and grab that and get that image into our comprehension, which is not possible. And that is why I think it has been pointed out, both in the tradition and by Krishnamurti, that it is only negation which is the path that you can go. You can keep negating the false. This the intellect can do. We have the capability of discrimination. So we can be aware of the fact that we want to reach the other shore. Then ask, what is it that makes me want to reach the other shore? If I am happy on this shore, would I want to reach another shore? So there's a discomfort here, I want to escape from it. There is uncomfortable, anything uncomfortable, I want to get away from it. So we are perpetually seeking escape. Can we just be aware of the fact that this seeking of escape is what drives practically every action in us? I won't go to what Pradeep said about ego, etc., because that's terminology. But this is very easy for me to see. The moment there is discomfort, I want to escape from it. Why? I need to ask why. That doesn't mean you live with suffering, live with pain. We're not saying that. But can I just understand what is this movement which says, run away, get away? And that drives our entire lifestyle.
Another point is this becoming. Life is in constant flux. So becoming is also part of the natural process, isn't it? Only the thing, because we can't comprehend, we say that it is a becoming, but it is actually a movement. And that movement is always there because it's a constant flux. Why we are afraid of becoming?
Yeah, if the movement is a circle has no beginning and end. Is there becoming in moving in a circle? What point is there to reach? So you can become only if you posit a goal that you want to reach. But if you're going to be part of a circle which goes endlessly, where is the becoming? Our problem is we think life begins at birth and ends at death. We don't see the whole continuity, right? So we can't say now see the continuity. That is somebody else's statement. All we can watch is that our body ends, and it doesn't end at the end of 90 years. It ends every minute, in every breath. So can we just watch that? The opportunity is there every moment. So can we just watch that there is no continuity? Continuity is the creation of our mind. What is making us want to seek this continuity? Can we keep watching, observing that motive without trying to end it, without trying to say it should become zero? That becomes another motive. Why does that motive come up? Again, we need to watch that.
Thank you, Gopalan sir. We'll go to Anandji. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. So I have one or two questions. We have only words. We can only use words to understand, but word is not the thing. Now, Kay has said he spoke about the other shore or the other end. Now, what is the other shore or what, the other end? I mean, can I use a word for that other than the known or unknown? For example, when it is said, you are the other shore, now can you, which is known, can it be the unknown is my question. So there are three questions.
See, this is where I think we need to see that neither our body stands by itself, not as our thoughts stand by itself. The human being is a composite of all these three. You can't separate any component of it. What is that energy that is keeping this human being in place? We are perpetually in contact with the energy, we see it acting, then we ask the same question. So this is, to me, is the turning inward, to remain with that question and say, what happens to this energy when I go to sleep? What collapses into what in this process of sleep? Just to remain with that. I think understanding is always a revelation. It has to come to you. You can't get understanding. But our whole culture of education is you must work for it and you will get the understanding, which I think is a fallacy. Right? You work for it, let it reveal. That's all you can do. Get everything ready, but let the revelation happen. But just watch our own course of progress through our so-called education. Have we ever been told, you do your part and now let that reveal itself? We never allow that to happen. We never encourage that. We only say, get this information, that is understanding. And I think we've been deeply conditioned by our own education. So we first have to know what we have done to ourselves.
So the other show, is it the silence, what he's talking about?
Sir, any description we make will only be a description, right? It is something that we have to experience.
Absolutely. But we have to use words, isn't it?
Yeah. So
we have to describe.
That's right. So we know that there is another show which is not this conflict, etc., that we are caught in all the time. So we can negate and say, this is not that. All this thinking is not that. All these words are not that. All this conflict is not that. And keep negating whatever is not. But we want to be able to positively state what it is. That the words cannot do.
Thank you, Gopalan. Thank you. We'll go to Mr. Pradeep Verma now. Yes,
Yes,
Pradeep
sir.
ji.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Good morning, Gopalanji. You touched slightly the issue whether inquiry originates in the intellect. We hesitated to say yes. Leaving out metaphysical questions that remain unanswered even today, are there inquiries that don't belong to intellect and thought? To name a few, please name a few. We may not undermine intellect just because it is limited. You see, I see the role of intellect almost all around us. Then another question is, will passionate inquiry is intelligence, whatever the source may be, inquiry, the source of inquiry. Then third is, attention to attention is the realm of intelligence. Whether attention works without any trace of memory, how meaning is conveyed then. Harshadji talked about freedom. Freedom from the known gives instant freedom. That is there. The moment I realize that I don't know anything and I want to know something, I am out of that and I have that freedom to see and listen to. Shankarji was, somebody was talking about, I think Pradeep, if there is a real realization of Brahma, Brahma only, or Ishavasya Idam Sarvam, then where is the sufferer? Where is the sufferer? Again, unless until you bring a duality in that of sufferer and the Brahma. So, and Gopalanji talked about circle when Waghmare asked some question that you remain in the circle and you don't reach anywhere. You can't reach anywhere. Is there something to reach in the whole? These are some small basic questions coming to me. Thank you very much. If you can say a few things about it, Gopalanji. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I think, you see, we are not reducing the importance of the intellect or the body in any way. I think that should be clear. The human being is a composite. Without these three, life energy itself, the body and the intellect, the human being doesn't exist. You take one away and that whole edifice collapses. Each one of these has its place. The questions that you talked about, inquiry, the articulation of the questioning, the sharpening of the question, the examination, whether the critical examination, whether that question, which way it should go, that is the role of the intellect, definitely. But the intellect cannot understand. Understanding is a different faculty that I'm suggesting that comes much before the intellect itself. But the intellect is required to posit the right question. To just give a simple simile, if you are swimming, your head is in the water, you cannot see where you are going. So you have to come out of the water, get your bearings, and then you change your direction. To me, that's the direction of purpose of the intellect. It helps you formulate and says, this is a dead end. Let me try this. It makes you try different things. But inquiry itself, that comes from that very life energy, because the child, the baby wants to inquire right from the beginning. He's curious. What is curiosity? That inherent inquiry, and that is there in every human being. So, as far as that example of the cycle was concerned, circle was concerned, is there a goal to reach? Who has a goal? Only our intellect has the goal. And that's a never-ending goal, not going to get us anywhere. We know that. So, understanding that, so then you see it's not a negative pursuit. To me, it comes back to understanding this very basic thing. What happens between one breath and the next? One breath ends and 30 seconds later, the next breath begins. In that gap, is one alive or dead? Right? Because breathing is not happening. So to understand that living process itself, it's not continuous, it's in pieces. And we have put together and said, this is continuity, this is continuity. To be able to watch all this and just watch it for oneself. I think in that watching is the understanding and the movement for oneself.
Thank you. Thank you. I think there is a question from Ranjana, yes, from the chat, in the chat box. Ranjana ji, would you please ask your question yourself? Ranjana ji. Please unmute yourself and ask a question. Unmute. I think she is not there. So we'll go to Harshad Bhai. We'll come back to her later.
Yes. Yeah, are you able to hear?
Yes, yes.
Okay. It seems to me that some teachers like Krishnamurti or Shankaracharya or Ashtavakra, they have a direct experience of no separation between me or I and the world. But then when they explain it in words, they use metaphor. So this metaphor, this shore and the other shore is a metaphor. And similarly, there is another metaphor is like if you take an empty pot in which there is air and there is air outside, and these two air inside the pot and outside, they are separated by the body of this pot. And when that pot is broken, then there is no separation between the air which is inside and outside. So similar thing happens when the mind, the thinking mind no longer exists. And at that time, there is no separation between I, me, and the world. So this is something one has to feel it, experience it, but then you may again use the words to explain it to other people, but that word is not the thing. So the real thing is, can we live in that state when there is only looking, listening, not I learning or not I listening? Because when there is an I which is listening, then it will interfere with listening or looking. So that is why Krishnaji was asking, how do you listen? How do you look? In which he was trying to say that there is this state in which we can see things very, very clearly without intellect. But intellect, the knowledge, when it interferes, then our life becomes very dull, I feel. And when there is this knowledge, intellect is not interfering, then looking is a wonderful thing. And it gives you a kind of freshness in your life. You get that energy is no longer wasted in unnecessary thinking, and energy is looking at everything, at energy itself, like a tree or a human being. So that is the real beauty of living, in which this pot has broken. And that is why Kabir said, Bala hua meri matti phuti, मैं पनिया भरन से छूटी. It says that it's good that this matti, the spot has broken. Now I don't have to make any effort to go and bring water. So there is a deep meaning, and this is again a metaphor. So great teachers use metaphor to express what they have felt really non-verbally. Okay, I have finished.
Thank you, Harshad bhai. We'll go to Dinesh Waghmare. Yes, please go ahead.
Gopalan sir, are you able to listen to me? Why do we always advocate negation? Because, as you rightly said, the life force energy is operating through every level, and all the levels are said to be made by life force energy only. At least in our experiencing, we can say that. Only thing is the grosser levels are having limitations. Like body is having limitation, mind is having limitation. But that life force energy, if we talk of, there seems to be no limitation. So what? Otherwise, why we talk of freedom? What is freedom? Is it an intellectual thing? Is it a feeling? Is it an emotion? Or is it a body? What is freedom basically?
See,
what do you have to say? Why?
As you said, life force is what permeates everything, and it has no limitations. But although that life force permeates the body cannot fly. Right? It can only use it within its limitations. Similarly, I would say thought intellect can only work within the frame of recognition and projection. Even though it is energized by the same life force, it doesn't have all the capability of the life force. But if you notice what our thought intellect does, it attributes to itself all the capabilities of the life force. It would like to say, I am immortal, I am omnipotent. But deep down, you know that's not true. And that's the beginning of insecurity. So, why say that I am omnipotent when I am not? If I can see the fact that mind is limited, it can only do this, and it is subject to the vagaries of the body, this is all it can do. But what it can do is it can negate the false. It can't assert what is the true because that is too big for it, but it can negate the false, and therefore path of negation.
Okay, we'll go to Anandji, then again to Dinesh Waghmare. Yes, Anandji, please.
Yes, sir. So K has said the same thing in many different ways. In fact, thousands of different ways, the same thing he has explained. When he's talking the other end, the other show, or the unknown, I mean, I understand intellectually, within quotes, I'm saying that, you know, it could be silence, it could be God. Like, again, how do I understand silence? In silence, there is creation. So that is what I asked the question. Does it mean that?
See, when we say we want to understand something, what do we mean? In our common parlance, what we mean is that thing should come within myself. I should be able to subsume it. Right? That's what really understanding is. I should be able to digest it. It becomes part of me. Now, how do you digest something which is bigger than you? You undo it. And that's where the problem comes, when again and again we try to get things within the framework of the intellect. The intellect is limited. It can only take so much. Now you put something 100 times or million times bigger than that, it can't take it. So at that time, inevitably you have to come to this point that this is all this can do. It can weigh 5 grams. I've got 100 tons to weigh. This instrument can't do it. You have to come to that understanding at some point.
That was my question, sir. When I say that you are the same as the other side or the other show, I'm saying how can the you and the unknown go together? How can there be understanding of that?
See, that is only a statement made by somebody. Is it true for me? That's all that matters. Is it true for me? Let anybody say anything. Okay, that's a pointer. It gives me a thing to talk about, think about. What is it for me? That's all that matters. I have to only live with that.
And the other question, sir, when I talk about freedom, I mean, we don't seem to understand freedom and responsibility go together. In fact, they mean the same. Can I understand that I'm a irresponsible human being? But I talk about freedom. I feel the freedom means I can do what I want. Is that what freedom is? Or what Kay is talking about? Or even the dictionary meaning of freedom, when I go through it, it is the responsibility is also there. Without responsibility, there cannot be freedom. And most of us, almost all of us, we talk about freedom in some other sense. We don't seem to understand responsibility.
So, why bother about what is the definition of freedom according to Krishnamurti or to the dictionary? What to me is freedom? For me, freedom means I should have the choice to do what I want. This is my deep understanding of freedom. And if there is any other implication of freedom, I don't really accept it, although I may not argue with it. So the moment this choice comes, I want to do what I want, that is the moment to ask, why do I want to do this? Is it not? What is that motive? Why am I attracted towards this? If each one of us lived that way, life would be different, but we are not. You see, we talk about freedom being available, meaning to say, I should have this space, I decide what I want to do, but you do what I say. That's not possible. So the freedom to observe that I am caught in my own net is always there. What prevents us from seeing it? So that freedom is always there. And that's the starting point.
Ranjana ji is back again with some comment. Would you please unmute yourself and ask your question, Ranjana ji? Please ask your question.
Sir, Krishnamurti ji statement is aware of what is, just aware of what is. Here, can we take just aware as the other show, and what is the division? So when we are in other show, meeting the division, so things are happening. Can we take like that?
Sir, why do we?
And other one more thing, when Krishna ji is telling, you have to start from the other show. He is telling this to people who are in division. So there is some meaning in it. We cannot deny it also. Okay, that's all.
So can we just listen to that statement? Krishnamurti has said it. Can I now make it my statement? What is this other shore I'm talking about? Is there a shore that is separate from me? Can I make that statement for myself into a question and find out the answer for myself? Because there is nobody else to give us the answer. I think this is something that is difficult to accept because it makes us very insecure. There is nobody to give us direction or answer. We have to find it for ourselves. Yes, there are pointers. For a million years, there are pointers. There are pointers of today. But the journey is mine. And I take the responsibility and the consequences for it. Is there any avoiding that?
I think we'll go to Waghmare ji now. Yes.
Sir, thought is pretending that it is the original thing. Now, do you mean to say that we should focus on the life force energy and let the life force energy reveal to us what is its actuality?
No, I'm not suggesting we focus on anything. Can we be aware of what you just now said? Thought is acting like this. Can I be aware of it, that it is acting like this? And ask myself, why is it wanting to act like this? Because we know it is limited. So why does it want to act as if it is important? Eternal. Why does it want to act like that? What is driving us to do that? And you will immediately come to insecurity. There is fear of ending that is making me drive and look for something beyond. Why am I afraid of ending? What is it that I'm afraid of ending? Now, this is a journey each one has to take. I don't know whether there is any other way of arriving at that answer.
I think everything can't be given in question and answer. You have to do that work yourself. Yes, Harshad bhai, please.
Yes. Yes, it seems to me that many people who read Krishnamurti, listen to him, then they gather some concepts out of it, and then they think about it or gather knowledge about it. But the real thing is, as Gopalan sir said, what Krishnamurti says, can I say also with the same conviction that yes, it is so, and that requires a real looking into our own mind, how it works, how the problems are created in our life, in daily life. So as long as we are not very clear about our own mind, we cannot understand Krishnamurti, we cannot understand other people who are speaking. So this is an area of a direct perception. When a person is able to see clearly within himself, then he can see even the things which are outside very clearly. He can even listen to other people very clearly. So everything finally ends up, are we really passionate to look at our own mind? And when we are able to see clearly, it, all these questions, doubts will drop away. And there will be only looking at what is coming. And in that looking, there is a solution. Like as Krishnaji says, perception is the action, which is really true. When we see clearly what is happening, if there is a anger is coming and I can see it non-verbally, then that stops. So the whole thing is experimenting in our own daily life, moment by moment, looking at it, and then only we can speak, and we can speak clearly. But even then, people will ask many questions, there will be many doubts. So as long as there is no clear seeing, not understanding intellectually, but as long as there is no clear seeing, doubts and questions will come. There will be answers will be coming, but those answers will not satisfy. It will lead to more questioning. So, okay, I have said enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Harshad bhai. We'll take the last question now from Mr. Rajendran. Yes, please go ahead.
Sir, Gopalan sir, namaskara. So it is very joyful to listen to you. So we are already in the other shore. Even Buddhism also says everybody is a Buddha. Only thing is they are not aware of that. Since we are already on the other shore, is there anything one has to do? Or doing nothing? Why we are always doing something, making effort and all these things? Why it is so difficult for not doing anything? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so is it possible to do nothing? The moment you try, you will yourself face what says don't do anything, get up and walk at least, right? So, but that is the experience. See, that is why take retreat is something that Krishnamurti said years ago. Now you go to a retreat, then you need books to read, videos to watch. You can fill up that activity with whole time with all sorts of activities. You can also say, what does it mean to just sit? What compels me not to sit? To watch that in oneself. If we can allow some space in our lives to be able to do this, then I think it is the journey. You will be answering the questions that you asked.
Thank you, Mr. Gopalan. I think it was a beautiful presentation and a very lively question-answer session. I want to thank Gopalan sir on behalf of all the members of the Indore Study Circle. And next Sunday, we have Mr. Murli Menon. He's associated with the Study Center of the Valley School. So next Sunday, we'll have his talk at 6 p.m. So please remember, it's in the evening, 6 p.m. And the theme is Family, a Unit of Limited Relationship. Family, a unit of limited relationship. So you're all welcome to join. With these words, I want to thank Gopalan sir once again. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, Dubey sir. Thank you very much, Dubey sir.
Thank you.
And the persons who asked question are requested to see the video once again. They will feel the same questions they are asking to every speaker. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Please,
Gopalan.
Dubey. Please, Dubey.